7 elephants had already killed 2 people. The state wanted them dead. David Marsh said no and took all 7 onto his own farm. 13 years later, these killer elephants did something nobody expected. Was it the right call? Watch to find out. On a November morning in East Texas, one of the bulls came through a stand of loblolly pines without warning. No trumpet, no charge, nothing. It moved fast, and by the time the 2 men heard it, there was no time. A hunting guide named Tommy Briggs was killed. The second man made it to his truck with a broken arm and 40 stitches. Afterward, the bull wandered into a clearing and stood there, swaying its head slowly, the way an animal does when something is wrong, and it can't find it. 6 weeks after Tommy Briggs, a ranch hand named Scott, 26 years old, was killed while cutting a fence line on adjacent property. Same thing. No warning. Broad daylight. The animal moving into him as if he wasn't there. That one made the Dallas news. The State Wildlife Commission opened a formal case, and the word in their report was euthanasia. David Marsh read the report on a Sunday morning at his kitchen table in Lufkin. He was 53, taught wildlife biology at Stephen F. Austin State University, and had spent enough time around captive elephant populations to know the report didn't add up. Aggressive elephant signal. They move through a sequence any experienced handler can read. They do not walk silently into people in daylight, as if the people aren't there. He drove out to the property that afternoon and talked to 2 handlers who had worked with the animals before the condemnation. One of them, an older man named Pete, said the big bull's eyes had been looking wrong for months. Cloudy, he said, like grease on glass from the inside. David owned 80 acres outside Garrison that he used for field work. Scrubland mostly, with a small farmhouse he stayed in during research trips. He filed the paperwork to bring the 7 bulls there and started making calls. Getting the state commission to release condemned animals to a private individual took 3 weeks of phone calls and a letter from his department head. The transport happened over 2 nights in early March 2009. David stood at the gate of his back pasture at 2 in the morning when the last trailer pulled in and watched all 7 bulls walk down the ramp into the dark and disappear into the pines. He went out the next morning before his 9 o'clock class. The big bull was at the tree line, and David walked toward him along the inside of the fence. And the bull came at him immediately, fast, no bluff in it. David got back through the gate, and the bull hit the post hard enough to shake the wire. He drove to the university, taught his class, came back in the afternoon, and walked the fence again. The bull came again, harder. He did this for 2 weeks. He wasn't trying to tame anything. He was watching. What distance triggered the charge? What time of day was worst? Whether the other 6 followed or held back. They held back. The big bull was charging at something it could barely see, and the others were watching to see what happened. On the 14th day, he called Dr. Elena Beek, a large animal vet from the University of Tennessee's Elephant Care program, whom he'd worked with before. He described what he'd seen, the charges with no buildup, the head swaying after, what Pete had said about the eyes. She drove down that Wednesday, stood at the fence watching the bull for 20 minutes, and said she needed to sedate him to be sure. The bull went down in the late afternoon the following day. Elena worked under a headlamp and looked up at David and said, "Viral infection. Both eyes." She could see the same signs in 2 others without even sedating them. "Treatable," she said, if they moved on it quickly. She took samples and said she'd have the full picture in a week. It was treatable. 3 of the 7 were badly enough affected that Elena came back 4 more times over the following 2 months to complete the treatment. Every bill went on David's personal credit card. The change in the animals came slowly. By November, the big bull had stopped hitting the fence when David walked it. By February, he was coming to the fence on his own when David approached, close enough that David could see the clarity that had come back into his eyes. David had been writing everything up carefully: the diagnosis, the treatment, the behavioral changes after. It moved through the right channels, and 4 years later, the Harlan Wildlife Foundation in Houston awarded his program $480,000 to continue the work. A conservation magazine ran a profile on him. His department head shook his head in the hallway. His stepbrother Carl saw the article. Carl had his own life and his own income, but the profile bothered him in a way he didn't bother examining too closely. He called David that evening, said little, and hung up. What Carl knew, and had known for a while, was that David's farm outside Garrison was insured for a significant sum. Their father's lawyer had arranged it years back. Both brothers had their assets insured, and the will stated plainly that in the event of either brother's death, his property passed to the other. Carl had never thought much about that clause until David's name started appearing in magazines with large grant numbers attached to it. In the following years, more articles about David's work started showing up, each article longer than the previous ones, and with David's photograph. That week, Carl made up his mind. Burn the farm while David was asleep inside, collect the insurance, inherit the land. He had watched David get lucky with sick elephants and turn it into a career moment, and Carl wanted it over. 3 weeks later, he drove out on a Tuesday night with a gas can. Ray, the farmhand who lived in a small trailer at the edge of the property, saw headlights come in around midnight and assumed it was David returning late. He went back to sleep. David had taken 2 sleeping pills that night. The insomnia had been bad all week. He was deep under when it started. Ray said he woke to the elephants, not trumpeting, the low rumbling they make when something is wrong, felt in the chest before it's heard. He looked out his window and saw all 7 of them pressed against the near fence, the side facing the house. Then he smelled smoke. He came out running. The storage shed was fully going and the fire was moving toward the back wall of the house. Ray shouted and went for the hose, and David came out confused and barefoot, moving away from the fire toward the back pasture. And that is where they were. All 7 had come through the open gate and closed around him in the dark, shoulder to shoulder, and David came fully awake, standing inside a ring of elephants, and started shouting. Ray called 911. Neighbors came with buckets. They got the fire under control before it reached the house, though the shed was gone. Carl was found at the back of the property with the gas can. He told the first deputy he'd seen the fire from the road and stopped to help. The deputy noted the gas can. He noted that a man stopping to help a fire does not approach from the back of a dark property in the middle of the night. Carl was in a patrol car before the fire was fully out. That evening, after everyone had gone, David walked out to the fence. Bull came to him when he approached. No hesitation, just the big animal walking over the way he had been for months. David stood at the fence and looked at him and thought about 2009, the commission's report, the word euthanasia, 7 bulls walking down a trailer ramp into the dark because nobody else would take them. He had spent his own money and his own time and 13 years of early mornings at this fence to give them a place to live. And tonight, when a man came with a gas can to burn it all down, they had formed a circle around him in the dark, and they had not moved. He had saved them when everyone wanted them dead. 13 years later, they had saved him. The world had called them killer elephants. Tonight, they were something else entirely. He stayed at the fence until it was fully dark. Bull stayed with him